Hello students, welcome to the class on motivational theories. Vroom's expectancy or valence theory has been developed by Porter and Lawer. Their model goes beyond motivational force and considers performance as a whole. They point out that effort expended, that is motivational force, does not lead directly to the performance. It is mediated by individual abilities and traits and by person's role perceptions. They also introduce rewards as an intervening variable. Porter and Lawer see motivation, satisfaction and performance as separate variables and attempt to explain the complex relationships among them. Their model recognizes that job satisfaction is more dependent upon performance than performance is upon satisfaction. Now, let us see explanation of relationships. These relationships are difficult to be expressed mathematically because of their complex nature, in contrast to the human relations approach, which tended to assume that job satisfaction leads to improved performance. Porter and Lawer suggest that satisfaction is an effect rather than a cause of performance. It is performance that leads to job satisfaction. Now, let us see value of reward. Value of reward is similar to valence in Vroom's model. People desire various outcomes, that is rewards, which they hope to achieve from work. The value placed on a reward depends on the strength of its desirability. Perceived effort reward probability. It is similar to expectancy. It refers to a person's expectation that certain outcomes, that is rewards, are dependent upon a given amount of effort. Now, effort is how hard the person tries, the amount of energy a person exerts on a given activity. It does not relate to how successful a person is in carrying out an activity. The amount of energy exerted is dependent upon the interaction of the input variables of value of reward and perception of the effort reward relationship. There is also a link between abilities and traits. Porter and Lawer suggest that effort does not lead directly to performance, but it is influenced by individual characteristics. Factors such as intelligence, skills, knowledge, training and personality affect the ability to perform a given activity. Now, let us see role perceptions. Role perceptions refer to the way in which individuals view their work and the role they should adopt. This influences the type of effort exerted. Role perceptions will influence the direction and level of action which is believed to be necessary for effective performance. Performance depends not only on the amount of effort exerted, but also on the intervening influences of the person's abilities and traits and their role perceptions. If the person lacks the right ability or personality or has an inaccurate role perception of what is required, then the exertion of a large amount of energy may still result in a low level of performance or task accomplishment. Rewards are desirable outcomes. Intrinsic rewards derive from the individuals themselves and include a sense of achievement, a feeling of responsibility and recognition. For example, Herzberg's motivators. Extrinsic rewards derive from the organization and the actions of others and include salary, working conditions and supervision, that is, for example, Herzberg's hygiene factors. The extent of relationship between performance and intrinsic rewards depends upon the nature of job. If the design of job permits variety and challenge, so that people feel able to reward themselves for good performance, there is a direct relationship. Where job design does not involve variety and challenge, there is no direct relationship between good performance and intrinsic rewards. The wavy line between performance and extrinsic rewards indicates that such rewards do not often provide a direct link to performance. Now, let us see perceived equitable rewards. This is the level of rewards people feel they should fairly receive for a given standard of performance. Most people have an implicit perception about the level of rewards they should receive commensurate with the requirements and demands of the job and the contribution expected of them. Self-rating of performance links directly with the perceived equitable reward variable. Higher level of self-rated performance are associated with higher levels of expected equitable rewards. Satisfaction. Now, satisfaction is not the same as motivation. It is an attitude, an individual's internal state. Satisfaction is determined by both actual rewards received and perceived level of rewards from the organization for a given standard of performance. If perceived equitable rewards are greater than actual rewards received, the person experiences dissatisfaction. The experience of satisfaction derives from actual rewards that meet or exceed the perceived equitable rewards. Lyman Porter and Edward Lawler's model is a comprehensive model of motivation. They combine adding two more components to Vroom's theory of motivation. The model is more comprehensive as it includes various aspects that we have studied so far. This is a multivariate model which explains the relationship that exists between job attitudes and job performance. This model is based on 4 assumptions of human behavior as under. First one, individual behavior is determined by a combination of factors that exist in individual and are present in the environment. Next is, individuals are considered to be rational people who make conscious and logical decisions about their behavior when they interact with other people in the organization. Next is, every individual have different needs, desires and their goals are of varied nature. On the basis of their expectations, individuals decide between alternate behaviors. The outcome of the efforts is related to the pattern of behaviors an individual display. Porter and Lawer model of motivation has following components. First one is value of rewards. People try to find out the rewards those are likely to be received from undertaking a particular job will be attractive enough. This phenomenon is equal to that of valence in Vroom's theory of motivation. If rewards are attractive, an individual will put in extra efforts, otherwise he will lower the very desire of doing a job. Next is efforts. Efforts refer to the amount of energy which an individual is prepared to exert on a job assigned to him. Next is perceived effort reward probability. People try to assess the probability of a certain level of efforts leading to a desired level of performance and the possibility of that performance leading to rewards. Basis on the valence reward and the efforts reward probability, people decide the amount of efforts they would like to put in. Next is performance. Efforts lead to performance. The level of performance will generally depend upon role perception as defined in the standing orders, policy instructions, the level of efforts, skills, ability, knowledge and intellectual capacity of the individual. Traits also play a role in performance equation. Thus, ability and personality traits will moderate effort performance relationship. Performance of the individual is directly related to reward he is likely to get. Reward is of the two types, intrinsic and extrinsic. Individual is generally motivated by intrinsic rewards. It is therefore necessary for the organization to pay an adequate attention to the reward system in the organization. Extrinsic rewards are in the form of money or other material elements that have been included in hygiene factors of Herzberg's motivation theory. Next is satisfaction. Satisfaction results from intrinsic rewards. Individual will therefore compare his actual rewards with the perceived rewards. If actual rewards are equal or greater than perceived rewards, the individual would feel satisfied. On the contrary, if they are less than perceived rewards, an individual will put in reduced efforts and obviously he will be less satisfied. Now, let us see what is significance of the model. Porter and Lawer model is a complete model and is a departure from traditional performance satisfaction relationship. The model is of a great significance to managers as it sensitizes them to focus their attention to achieve employee motivation. Following points need more attention. First one is managers must ensure the matching of individual traits and ability with the job. Next, managers must explain to the employees the role they play in the organization and its relationship with reward system. Next is managers should carry out job analysis carefully, lay down actual performance levels which should be attainable by the individuals. Job expectations, performance levels and reward associated with the job should be clearly laid down and implemented. Next is motivation of employees is important. Make sure that the rewards dispensed are in line with employee expectations. Carry out the review of reward system periodically. Now, let us see implications for managers of expectancy theories. There are number of versions of expectancy theory. The main elements tend to be very similar. This suggests the development of a generally accepted approach. Expectancy models are not always easy to understand or to apply. There are many variables which affect behavior at work. A problem can arise in attempting to include a large number of variables or in identifying those variables which are most appropriate in particular situations. Expectancy theory does, however, draw attention to the complexities of work motivation. It provides further information in helping to explain the nature of behavior and motivation in the work situation and helps to identify problems in performance. Expectancy theory indicates that managers should give attention to a number of factors including the following. First one is use rewards appropriate in terms of individual performance. Outcomes with high valence should be used as an incentive for improved performance. Next is attempt to establish clear relationships between effort performance and rewards as perceived by the individual. Next is establish clear procedures for the evaluation of individual levels of performance. Next is pay attention to intervening variables such as abilities and traits, role perceptions, organizational procedures and support facilities, which although not necessarily direct motivational factors may still affect the performance. Minimize undesirable outcomes which may be perceived to result from a high level of performance, such as industrial accidents or sanctions from co-workers, or to result despite a high level of performance, such as short time working or layoffs. Porter and Lawer also emphasize that the expectancy model is just a model and that expectancy theory applies only to behaviors which are under the voluntary control of the individual. The two general types of choices over which individuals have voluntary control of work performance in organizations are like this. First one, the amount of effort and energy expended, and second is the manner in which they go about performing their work. Now, let us see equity theory of motivation. One of the major variables of satisfaction in Porter and Lawer expectancy model is perceived equitable rewards. This leads to consideration of another process theory of motivation, that is equity theory. Applied to the work situation, equity theory is usually associated with work of Adams. Equity theory focuses on people's feelings of how fairly they have been treated in comparison with the treatment received by others. It is based on exchange theory. Social relationships involve an exchange process. For example, a person may expect promotion as an outcome of a high level of contribution, that is input, in helping to achieve an important organizational objective. People also compare their own position with that of others. They determine the perceived equity of their own position. Their feelings about the equity of the exchange are affected by the treatment they receive when compared with what happens to the other people. Most exchanges involve a number of inputs and outcomes. According to equity theory, people place a weighing on these various inputs and outcomes according to how they perceive their importance. When there is an unequal comparison of ratios, the person experiences a sense of inequity. Now, let us see behavior as a consequence of inequity. A feeling of inequity causes tension, which is an unpleasant experience. The presence of inequity therefore motivates the person to remove or to reduce the level of tension and the perceived inequity. The magnitude of perceived inequity determines the level of tension. The level of tension created determines the strength of motivation. Adams identifies 6 broad types of possible behavior as consequences of inequity. First one is changes to inputs. A person may increase or decrease the level of their inputs, for example, through the amount of quality of work, absenteeism or working additional hours without pay. Next is changes to outcomes. A person may attempt to change outcomes such as pay, working conditions, status and recognition without changes to inputs. Next is cognitive distortion of inputs and outcomes. In contrast to actual changes, people may distort cognitively their inputs or outcomes to achieve the same result. Adams suggests that although it is difficult for people to distort facts about themselves, it is possible within limits to distort the utility of those facts. For example, the belief about how hard they are really working, the relevance of a particular qualification or what they can or cannot obtain with a given level of pay. Next is leaving the field. A person may try to find a new situation with a more favorable balance, for example, by absenteeism, request for a transfer, resigning from a job or from the organization altogether. Next is acting on others. A person may attempt to bring about changes in others, for example, to lower their inputs or accept greater outcomes, or the person may cognitively distort the inputs and outcomes of others. Alternatively, a person may try to force others to leave the field. Next is changing the object of comparison. This involves changing the reference group with whom the comparison is made. For example, where another person with a previously similar outcome input ratio receives greater outcomes without any apparent increase in contribution, that other person may be perceived as now belonging to a different level in the organization structure. Under the control of manager, the manager may seek to remove or reduce tension and perceived inequity among staff by influencing these types of behavior. For example, by attempting to change a person's inputs or encouraging a different object of comparison. People measure and compare their total inputs and outcomes. So, for example, a working parent may prefer greater flexibility in working hours in return for lower monetary rewards. However, there are likely to be only two courses of action under the direct control of the manager. Outcomes can be changed by, for example, increased pay, additional perks or improved working conditions, or by instigating a person leaving the field through transfer, resignation, or as an extreme measure the dismissal. It is important to remember that equity theory is about the perceived ratio of inputs to outputs, and these perceptions may not reflect the reality of the situations. Now, let us see implications of Porter and Lawer model. Porter and Lawer's model is of great significance to managers, since it sensitizes them to focus attention on the following to keep their employees motivated: assigning right type of jobs to right types of person, ensuring perfect match between person and job. Next is providing clear job descriptions and highlighting what a person is expected of in his work, that is role perception. Next is assigning the proper performance levels such as quantity, waste control, number of customers attended, etc. Next is ensuring that the rewards given to their employees are very attractive to them. If high levels of motivation are to be induced, managers should ensure that the employees perceive a direct link between performance and desired rewards. If significant changes in performance levels are desired, the rewards given must also be significant and valued enough by the employees to change their effort levels. The Porter and Lawer model is useful in understanding by the dynamics of motivation at the workplace. Now, let us sum up. Porter and Lawer have evolved a motivational theory which focus beyond Vroom's theory of motivation. The level of job satisfaction is controlled and affected by a variety of individual, social, organizational and cultural aspects. Equity theory focuses on people's feelings on how fairly they have been treated in comparison with the treatment received by others. Satisfaction of employees carries a close link with traits, skills, efforts, performance and its relationship with the reward system. Therefore, Porter and Lawer's model is of great significance to the managers. Thank you.